Hello, Catholic family. See, I know I've given you all reasons to think that this girl is not serious with whatever she's doing on this channel. See, she's not serious at all. Because who talks about Lent in September? Ah! Anyway, welcome back. If this is the first time my face is popping up on your screen, my name is Chamaka, the Loud Catholic. I'm a Catholic content creator based in Nigeria, and on this channel, I blog about Catholicism, Catholic lifestyle, everything Catholic. So if this is something that interests you, please, you're welcome to join the family. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment, share as well, okay? And for my returning subscribers, my existing family members, I'm sorry for keeping you all in the dark all this while. There is a reason, an explainable reason, I believe, why that happened, and that is the reason I'm making this video. Okay, so stay tuned. So when the thought of doing this came to my head, I brushed it off immediately because I felt like it's not necessary. Like, this is something personal. I'm not supposed to share this on this space, right? But then on second thought, I was like, is it not somehow, if I'm always coming here talking about Catholic this, Catholic that, do this as a Catholic, just dropping Catholic stuff here and there, and I don't get to show as much as a glimpse as to how I try to live out all these things, all the stuffs I talk about here in my personal life, and another reason why I decided to do this was I was talking to a friend, an acquaintance actually, who is also subscribed to this channel. I think a couple of months ago, she was like, "Oh, you've been on a break. What's the reason?" And I told her, and she was like, "Oh, sorry about that. Well, would love to hear it. Okay, gist us, right?" So I was like, "Okay, maybe I'll just drop the gist, right?" And so here it goes. So if you're regular on my channel, on this channel, you remember that before Lent, I had dropped a video talking about Lenten preparation. I tagged it Cyrenaean gestures, right? Just talking about the video is on my channel, so you should, maybe I'll tag it down below or something. But I had talked about preparations for Lent, what to do for Lent, just basically giving ideas on what to do, activities to carry out during Lent to ensure that we don't waste our Lenten season. We make good use of it, right? And to be honest, on my own end, I actually made plans. I was making plans, or rather, I had made plans on what to do. I even had a timetable. I crafted a timetable of what to do on certain days in Lent, Wednesdays, Fridays. I had a timetable. I had a check box or a checklist rather to mark my performance and all that. I was all pumped up and ready for this year's Lenten season, right? But then remember, a man proposes, Abby, and then God disposes, right? So while I was making my plans, while I was, thinking, oh, I will do this during Lent, I will do this for Lent, I will do this for Lent, God was like, my daughter, carry this thing and shift. I have a cross, a personal cross that I want you to carry this Lent, right? And that cross, sadly, the cross was grief. So the Friday after Ash Wednesday, yes, Friday after Ash Wednesday this year, I received the news of the death of someone very, very dear to me. Now, this particular person is a distant relative, but that's genealogically, we are this, I think, distant cousins. I can't remember. You know how they used to do your mother, your father, the mother. Is very far relative, right? But like I said, that's genealogically, because in reality, we, apart from the fact that we shared the same family roots or family background, we actually lived in the same area. His house is just two stone throws away from mine. We attended the same church. We were members of the same society. We were very close. He was more of a best friend to me than a mere relative. To be honest, we were very close. Very close as best friends. In a way, best friends would be close, right? We confided in each other. You know, he was always there for me, and vice versa. He was a very good person to me, and all that, right? So, when I heard he had died, I was really shocked, because you see, yes, he had been in and out of the hospital actually, but something happened this year. So in February, I'd gone on a retreat. I went for my annual retreat, and you see, before then, I was discussing with him a few days before then, and he was telling me about how he was having some symptoms of sickness. I was really scared because in November we just got discharged from the hospital in November after a major surgery and complications afterwards, right? So when he told me he was sick again, I was really sad. And then before the retreat, I asked him for his intention. What do you want me to tell God about in my retreat? And he asked for sound health. I was like, yes, yes, yes. That is the main thing, right? So when I went to my retreat, I prayed so hard about it. Like I talked to God. I presented his case before God. I I asked our Blessed Mother, I said, please talk to your son. Please talk to your son. I don't want this brother of mine to fall ill. I don't want any, I just want him to be healthy. I want him to be bubbling in good health, right? So I prayed so hard about it. And I was certain, and I had this conviction that my prayers were answered, and right after I came back from the retreat, I was talking to him and he told me he was well. The symptoms he had been feeling or whatever he was having before then, they were all gone now, and he has bounced back. And I was like, yes, God is at work, right? So you can imagine my shock when I heard of his death. Right, he had been in the hospital a couple of days, and I even had no idea that he was in the hospital. I just heard that he's gone. I was shocked. I don't know the word to use, but I didn't really receive the news well, right? I mean, who receives the news of the death of a loved one well, but it wasn't something I was expecting at that point, right? And this whole video, I'll talk about how I handled it. So the very first thing I experienced was a distaste in spirituality. Yes, like I said, before Lent, I had plans on how I wanted Lent to be, I made plans for Lent. I had this energy. I was all pumped up for Lent. I had this ginger, the vibes was too much. Everything was above the roof, I was all ready. This Lent 2025, I'll make good use of, I already made plans for Lent, to be very honest, right? But when I received the news of his death, everything just went down. Everything just died down, just as if how you put off the lights in a room and then everywhere becomes dark. That was how I felt. Nothing was making sense to me anymore at that point, right? And so I found myself going through, or rather participating in spiritual activities, but I was there, but I wasn't there, right? I wasn't feeling any of it, right? I would go for mass, but I wouldn't feel it. I pray my rosary, but I don't feel it. I just felt like everything I was doing was going down the drain. It wasn't. I wasn't. I didn't feel as if I was communicating with God. It felt like I was just speaking into thin air. I was talking to a void. So now I remember this quote of Saint Jose Maria. I think it's the last quote in his book, The Way. It's not the last quote. I know that is something is a point in the book, his book, The Way. Right. The point says, fall in love and you never leave him. And I remember a friend of mine used to say that most times members of the work will turn it upside down. So instead of fall in love and you never leave him, they will say don't leave him and you fall in love. I wouldn't say I was out of love with God, but I wasn't so sure where I stood in my relationship with God at that point. I wasn't so sure. It's not. At that point, if you tell me go to the highest mountains and proclaim your love for God, I would actually think twice, to be very honest. I was just at crossroads, right? But I made a decision. I was like, in as much as I might not understand what's happening at this point, in as much as I might not be feeling God at this point, right? I should just stay put to Him. I should just hold on tight to Him, right? Because I mean, there's nobody else to turn to. There's nothing else to turn to. There's nowhere else to turn to. I can't take solace in any other thing, right? I'm not the party person. I don't do drugs. Even if I would decide to find solace in all these things, how am I sure that I would definitely get what I want? How am I sure that by participating in or by um doing any of these that this grief would go away or what I feel will go away? I think to just make it worse, right? And so I was like, the only person I know, the only person I know is God, and I just have to hold on tight to Him, even if I'm angry at this point, even if I'm sad at this point, I just have to hold on tight to Him, right? So I made a decision to go on with my spiritual activities. If my mind was there or not, if I was feeling it or not, just go on with it. Even if you're not you're not understanding anything that is happening. Shall continue, shall be there. You understand? So that was what I told myself, and so that decision led me to go on with my Lenten plan for the things I'd planned to do for Lent, right? So I decided to go on with them, and one of them was taking part in the Lenten challenge being organized on Halo app. So it was my first time downloading the Halo app. It was my first time using the Halo app for prayers, and also my first time taking part in the Lenten challenge, right? And to be very honest, I would say I really believe that everything we do in life is pre-organized by God. Because you see, the Lent Pray 40, which is the name of the Lenten challenge on the Aloe app, I would say is for me, seriously, the Lent Pray 40 2025, that's of this year, it was organized for me, right? Everything from the theme to the meditations, the story that was used to follow the theme, like everything. It was as if someone had me in mind. It was as if the organizers knew that there would be a girl in Nigeria who would be experiencing grief this period, right? So everything was just flowing, it was in sync with what I was feeling, and it really, really helped me a lot, right? So the theme for this year was the way Saint Jose Maria, imagine. So for them to use the way, and I think it was the first time we were using a the book of Saint Jose Maria, or it was the first time we were using the any writing of Saint Jose Maria. It was actually the first time we were using it on the app, right? So it was just coincidental, right? So the thing was the way, and the story. It was a book story of the servants of God that was used to follow the theme. A song for Nagasaki, the main character Takashi Nagai, who was a physician, a Japanese who discovered Christ, right, and stayed put in devotion to him amidst trials, tribulations, and war, right? So everything that story, everything about the book, and also everything about the theme and also the challenge, it was speaking to me. I wouldn't lie, right? So I can't exhaust everything. I know I can't exhaust everything in this one video, but then I took screenshots of certain places that touched my heart, certain places that spoke to me, right? Certain parts of the journey that spoke to me. I took screenshots, and I'll be sharing it here, right, one by one. So the first thing I have here has to do with questioning my identity as a child of God, as a daughter of God, right? And it says here that we sometimes find ourselves in the desert of our own hearts and our own lives and our sorrowful mysteries, and we question our identity and we say to God, am I really your beloved? How can that be? How can I rely upon you? How can I trust you with whatever is happening in my life? To be very honest, these were the questions in my head. I questioned God a lot when I received the news of his death. His name is Henry, by the way. I haven't mentioned his name. His name is Henry, late Henry. I questioned God a lot. When I received the news, it was so much to take in. I asked a lot of questions. I was like, am I really God's child? Am I really a child of God? It was more of if I pray about something, I pray for this, and after praying, nothing happened. In fact, the worst happens, because when I prayed, he was sick, and I was praying for divine healing, and then he died. I was like, is it that I questioned God a lot. I was like, God, you said in your word that whatever we ask, we receive. I asked for divine healings. Why? What happened? There are a lot of whys in my head, a lot of hows, right? And the fact that he was young, I was just questioning God, like, why is it always the good ones who don't last? Why is it always the good ones who die so early? I had a lot of questions in my head. I found it really hard to trust God. I think that was the reason why I wasn't vibing along with prayers. I wasn't putting my mind in on my spiritual activities. But I felt like if I would pray about something and it wouldn't happen, how am I sure that this one I'm praying about would take place, or how am I sure that God will listen to this particular prayer? Yeah, so I was really in a state of unbelief. Then I had so many questions in my head, right? And I received an answer from this same challenge, right?